Top 100 Political Science Books. Discover the best political science in bestsellers. Find the top 10 most popular items in Amazon Books bestsellers. The Political Science Books Top 10 list presents the best works of political theory, comparative politics, international relations, and public law. The list has a strong focus on political theory, as you might expect, and therefore includes mostly books on politics, liberty, justice, property, rights, law, and the enforcement of the law by the state. Many works by the great modern political thinkers are included, such as those of Rawls, Habermas, Chomsky, Cohen, Taylor, Roemer, Gilligan, Sandel, Waltz, Foucault, and James Scott. But the list also includes many of the classics of the past, such as those by Plato, Mill, Humboldt, Ferguson, Marx, Hamilton, Madison, Jay, and Hume. 1. The Republic. By Plato. The central work of one of the West's greatest philosophers, The Republic of Plato, is a masterpiece of insight and feeling, the finest of the Socratic dialogues, and one of the great books of Western culture. This new translation captures the dramatic realism, poetic beauty, intellectual vitality, and emotional power of Plato at the height of his powers. Deftly weaving three main strands of argument into an artistic whole: the ethical and political, the aesthetic and mystical, and the metaphysical, Plato explores in The Republic the elements of the ideal community, where morality can be achieved in a balance of wisdom, courage, and restraint. About the series, for over 100 years Oxford World's Classics has made available the broadest spectrum of literature from around the globe. Each affordable volume reflects Oxford's commitment to scholarship, providing the most accurate text plus a wealth of other valuable features, including expert introductions by leading authorities, voluminous notes to clarify the text, up-to-date bibliographies for further study, and much more. 2. On Liberty. By John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill is one of the few indisputably classic authors in the history of political thought. On Liberty, first published in 1851, has become celebrated as the most powerful defense of the freedom of the individual, and it is now widely regarded as the most important theoretical foundation for liberalism as a political creed. Similarly, his The Subjection of Women, a powerful indictment of the political, social, and economic position of women, has become one of the cardinal documents of modern feminism. This edition brings together these two classic texts, plus Mill's posthumous chapters on socialism, his somewhat neglected examination of the strengths and weaknesses of various forms of socialism. The editor's substantial introduction places these three works in the context both of Mill's life and of 19th century intellectual and political history, and assesses their continuing relevance. 3. A Theory of Justice. By John Rawls. A Theory of Justice is a work of political philosophy and ethics by John Rawls. It was originally published in 1971 and revised in both 1975, for the translated editions, and 1999. In A Theory of Justice, Rawls attempts to solve the problem of distributive justice, the socially just distribution of goods in a society, by utilizing a variant of the familiar device of the social contract. The resultant theory is known as justice as fairness, from which Rawls derives his two principles of justice, the liberty principle and the difference principle. 4. The Human Condition. By Hannah Arendt. A work of striking originality bursting with unexpected insights, The Human Condition is in many respects more relevant now than when it first appeared in 1958. In her study of the state of modern humanity, Hannah Arendt considers humankind from the perspective of the actions of which it is capable. The problems Arendt identified: diminishing human agency and political freedom, the paradox that as human powers increase through technological and humanistic inquiry, we are less equipped to control the consequences of our actions continue to confront us today. This new edition, published to coincide with the 40th anniversary of its original publication, contains an improved and expanded index, and a new introduction by noted Arendt scholar Margaret Conovan, which incisively analyzes the book's argument and examines its present relevance. A classic in political and social theory, The Human Condition is a work that is proved both timeless and perpetually timely. 5. Anarchy, State, and Utopia. By Robert Nozick. Translated into 100 languages, winner of the National Book Award, and named one of the 100 most influential books since World War II by the Times Literary Supplement, Anarchy, State, and Utopia remains one of the most theoretically trenchant and philosophically rich defenses of economic liberalism to date, as well as a foundational text in classical libertarian thought. With a new introduction by the philosopher Thomas Nagel, this revised edition will introduce Nozick and his work to a new generation of readers. 6. Law's Empire. By Ronald Dworkin. With the incisiveness and lucid style for which he is renowned, Ronald Dworkin has written a masterful explanation of how the Anglo-American legal system works and on what principles it is grounded. Law Empire is a full-length presentation of his theory of law that will be studied and debated by scholars and theorists, by lawyers and judges, by students and political activists for years to come. Dworkin begins with the question that is at the heart of the whole legal system. In difficult cases, how do and how should judges decide what the law is? He shows that judges must decide hard cases by interpreting rather than simply applying past legal decisions, and he produces a general theory of what interpretation is in literature as well as in law, and of when one interpretation is better than others. Every legal interpretation reflects an underlying theory about the general character of law. Dworkin assesses three such theories. One, which has been very influential, takes the law of a community to be only what the established conventions of that community say it is. Another, currently in vogue, assumes that legal practice is best understood as an instrument of society to achieve its goals. Dworkin argues forcefully and persuasively against both these views. He insists that the most fundamental point of law is not to report consensus or provide efficient means to social goals, but to answer the requirement that a political community act in a coherent and principled manner toward all its members. He discusses, in the light of that view, cases at common law, cases arising under statutes, and great constitutional cases in the Supreme Court, and he systematically demonstrates that his concept of political and legal integrity is the key to Anglo-American legal theory and practice. 7. Democracy and Education. By John Dewey. John Dewey's best-known and still popular classic, Democracy and Education, is presented here as a new edition in Volume 9 of the Middle Works. Sidney Hook, who wrote the introduction to this volume, describes democracy in education. It illuminates directly or indirectly all the basic issues that are central today to the concerns of intelligent educators. It throws light on several obscure corners in Dewey's general philosophy in a vigorous, simple prose style often absent in his more technical writings. And it is the only work in any field originally published as a textbook that has not merely acquired the status of a classic, but has become the one book that no student concerned with the philosophy of education today should leave unread. Dewey said in 1930 that Democracy in Education was for many years the one book in which my philosophy was most fully expounded. 8. Man, the State, and War. By Kenneth N. Waltz. What are the causes of war? To answer this question, Professor Waltz examines the ideas of major thinkers throughout the history of Western civilization. He explores works both by classic political philosophers, such as St. Augustine, Hobbes, Kant, and Rousseau, and by modern psychologists and anthropologists to discover ideas intended to explain war among states and related prescriptions for peace. 9. Democracy in America. By Alexis de Tocqueville. Democracy in America has had the singular honor of being even to this day the work that political commentators of every stripe refer to when they seek to draw large conclusions about the society of the United States. Alexis de Tocqueville, a young French aristocrat, came to the young nation to investigate the functioning of American democracy and the social, political, and economic life of its citizens, publishing his observations in 1835 and 1840. Brilliantly written and vividly illustrated with vignettes and portraits, Democracy in America is far more than a trenchant analysis of one society at a particular point in time. What will most intrigue modern readers is how many of Tocqueville's observations still hold true, on the mixed advantages of a free press, the strained relations among the races, and the threats posed to democracies by consumerism and corruption. 10. The Marx-Engels Reader. By Robert C. Tucker, Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels. This revised and enlarged edition of the leading anthology provides the essential writings of Marx and Engels, those works necessary for an introduction to Marxist thought and ideology.